This episode brought to you by TAUMMHOMS, which is a natural sleep and sound healing portal helping people globally to get to sleep faster and stay asleep longer through TAUMMHOMS.com. That's www.TAUMMHOMS.com.
It's My Right Stuff with your host, Grammy Award-winning record producer and inventor, Toby Wright. I'm your announcer, Grinnin' Barrett. Here's Toby.
Hey, and welcome back to My Right Stuff, which is a film, music, TV, sports, and adventure lifestyle podcast. I'm your host, Lord Toby Wright. And on today's episode, I have a really good friend of mine, Tana Douglas. She's an author, a mom, a manager, and she's considered to be the world's first female roadie. I bet she has a lot of fun stories, as we're about to find out. Well, but first, I want to give a big shout out to you, our loyal audience, who continue to watch, stream, and download every single episode of My Right Stuff. Keep spreading the word, my friends. I really do appreciate it. Please be sure to click on our show notes below and follow our link tree for a full list of channels we stream on, as well as links to all of our sites and social media platforms, which, by the way, includes our show, Chunky's Choice Cuts on Radio Free Sealand. Also, we have a support link which allows you to donate directly to our My Right Stuff crew. Every single dollar helps to bring you a brand new episode every week. And of course, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and the podcast channel of your choice so you never miss a single episode. And last but certainly not least, after the episode, please head on over to myrightstuff.com and click on the store tab to pick up some hot merch and some snazzy garb for those lovely bodies. All right. Now, well, if you're not familiar with Tana Douglas, she has just written her first book called Loud about her international adventures growing up in the music industry as the first female roadie. Well, let's give a nice, warm My Right Stuff welcome to Tana Douglas. Hey, Tana, how are you today?
Hey, very good. Thanks, Toby.
Yeah, it's been a long time since I've seen you.
It has. It's this damn COVID thing.
Yeah, I know. Well, we're not going to get into any of that.
Hell no.
But I met you through my partner, Brian. He's my musical partner, who I used to manage for a while back, like a band called Trigger Pimp or something.
Trigger Pimp it was, yeah.
And that was the greatest band that never was. What about that?
It's pretty close to the truth, actually. It was. They had a lot going for them, but they had more going for each other.
Oh, okay. Well, that's the way bands are sometimes. You know about all that.
Yeah, afraid so.
But you have this really cool book that you've just released. It's called Loud. And so what inspired you to write Loud?
Well, funnily enough, I got called by this chap over here in Los Angeles, actually, and he kept calling me, and I didn't recognize his number, so I didn't pick up. And he started leaving messages saying, I really want to do a script adaptation of your life, and I'm like,
okay.
Hey, well, no, it was weird. It was like, who the hell is this person? I've never heard of him. I don't know him. And what is he talking about? I mean, I had no idea there was anything topic worthy, really. It was just my job, I thought, So Anyway, I met with him a couple of times, but then I kind of realized that he was actually kind of looking for the gossip on the bands, and
right.
Yeah, and that's not my thing, that's not my thing. That's one of those, you'll never work in this town again.
Right,
you start spreading that shit around town. But so I wasn't really interested. And then, another chap approached me who is an Australian author, and he's done a bunch of different memoirs of different artists, a lot of the AC/DC individuals and, all sorts of bands, no doubt, all sorts of people, but all unauthorized though. and he said, I'd like to write your story. And it's like, who the hell are you? So it was like, I don't know what's going on, so I went backwards and forwards with him a couple of times, and I just realized, it wasn't right, but I was curious by that point, and I was kind of interested. And it was like, well, maybe there is something to this, So,
Right.
I kind of, they planted the seed between the two of them. But then I realized that, if anyone was going to really tell the story, it should be me.
Amen.
Because I'm the one that lived it, So, and I'd never thought of writing a book. I didn't actually even finish school, I read away from home way too early. But so it's kind of an interesting position I find myself in, actually. But yeah. So that's what happened. So it took a few years, and now it's out and people are loving it.
That's fantastic. So it took a couple of years to write it?
It does. It really does. If you're going to write a book, you've got to put a chunk of your life aside for it. You really do,
Oh,
unless
for sure.
it's, unless it's those, fictional romance novels that have 100 pages to them and they churn one out a month. You know what I mean? But,
Right.
as far as a memoir, you've got to get the dates right. You've got to get the times right. You've got to get, you've got to be able to also tell it in a way that makes sense to someone who doesn't know you, doesn't know your life, doesn't know what's going on. And you'd know, Toby, like when you're touring, you being a producer, you're not a member of a band, and I wasn't a member of a band. I was doing production. So
Right.
what happens is you find, you'll do one tour, but there'll be like a week off or a month off somewhere. And so you'll jump onto another tour or start another project, and then you come back. And so there was a lot of that going on throughout my life. And that was really hard to put into a timeline that would make sense for people who didn't know, because they'd be like, where the hell is she now? What's she doing?
Right.
So
hard to keep track of.
Yeah, it was. And it was kind of weird to actually create this timeline. It was like, God, I'm exhausted. Just recreating it's like, oh, Christ, I'm knackered. So it was
in reading the
interesting.
book, I was very impressed with the timelines, because it seems like you had, perfect dates down, like February 2nd of 1976 and, all this kind of stuff. I was like, wow, man, either you kept really good notes or you just made it up as you went along.
No. And that's the other thing. I never kept a diary, never kept a journal. Always figured if anyone read my diary or journal, they'd think I was insane and probably lock me up somewhere. So, but, it's amazing with the internet. You can go on and cross-reference tour itineraries and schedules and all that sort of stuff, and the rest just falls into place.
I gotcha.
So I used a lot of that, like, gigographies, they call them, so,
right.
And most of the bands that I've worked for have really in-depth ones, so that was really helpful. And you just talk to people, hi.
Right.
And
Exactly.
of course, that's funny as well, though, because the one person who was adamant that I should go to him for anything I need to know for the entire decade of the 80s was totally off on everything. It's like, that didn't happen. It's like, no, that didn't happen, Simon. That's not what happened. No.
That's great.
So that was hilarious as well, getting other people's points of view of things, That was,
absolutely.
Yeah, it makes you realize why eyewitness reports are useless.
Pretty much, right? And the game of telephone can go on and on and on, right?
Absolutely.
Well, here on My Right Stuff, I like to go back a little bit in history. And so you ran away from home at 15. You went to work for AC/DC at 16, and then went on to work with some of music's biggest names like The Police, Elton John, Santana, the Red Hot Chili Peppers, Iggy Pop, The Who, David Coverdale, and that's just to name a few. Being so young and trying to get a foothold in the world is very tough, right? So can you tell us how you overcame some of those struggles to get along down the path that you took?
To be honest, I didn't have anything to lose.
Okay.
I really didn't. I'd run away from home. That was gone. So all of a sudden I was a really young girl on my own. And so
Okay.
I just kept moving forward, and when I found something that resonated with me, which turned out to be the music industry, it was like, I wasn't going to give it up. It's like, I finally found something, and no one's going to take this from me, So I was a bit
Right.
feral.
Uh,
Probably scared a few people along the way.
Sure.
but also, it was kind of that, like the family that I never had. These groups of people that you go on tour with. You get so
Sure.
close with them. And you share so much with them. A little too much at times. It's like, oh, could have done without that.
Right.
But it becomes like a surrogate family, and that's what I was looking for. I'd been looking for that my whole life. So when I found it, no matter how dysfunctional it was, I wasn't going to let it go.
Right.
So
I don't blame you.
it was tenacity, I suppose.
Okay. Well, that's fair enough. Do you feel like AC/DC gave you the closeness you were missing from your own family? Like that, living in the house and stuff?
Yeah, they really did, actually. And that's why, they hold such a special place. They'll always have a special place with me, because
Sure.
we were all so young. We were all just getting started, and we were all just a bunch of kids, except for Bond, who was already old. but we'd always joke about that anyway. So, he was all right with that, but he was the same age as Harry and George, the two producers, Harry Young and George Vander. So, those three had a really good par for, like, on the recording side of it. Bon was really well tuned in with them. And obviously Angus and Malcolm were naturally tuned in because he was their brother,
Right,
so
right.
it was a really good fit. I don't think it would have worked with anyone else.
That's fantastic. And I love that band. They're just some of my heroes. And, I'm glad to know you and glad to know that they treated you so well. That just makes...
Yeah. They still do. They still do.
That's awesome.
I don't see them often, but if I ever call, they'll always pick up. So,
That's fabulous.
It's nice.
So in the book, you say that you participated in many firsts for many musicians, right? And you were just doing your job and didn't realize the enormity of what you were doing. Like
Right.
I have a few of those sames, where you just participate and make a record, or you with the shows, and with your lighting and your sound, and and I have some of those same things. And I was just wondering, how does that feel like when you step back and you look at it through the eyes of the book, and you realize the enormity of what that could mean to that person? How does that feel?
Well, it's interesting because, again, I was really unaware of all of that. I hadn't really put it into perspective of any sort until I started writing the book, and then I had to put it in perspective because I had to write about it, so I had to, why am I picking this story to write about, because there's so many stories. But so it was, as I was going along, it was like, well, that was a first for AC/DC, and that was a first for The Who, and that was a first for Ozzy, and it was like, wow, there's some like really strong moments here, which at the time you're so busy working, it goes completely past you, because you're just there doing the job and trying to get it done and trying to get the show up and trying to keep everyone under control, and God knows, musicians running off and disappearing. It's like, oh God.
Herding cats.
Herding cats, exactly. Herding wet cats.
Right, which is even worse.
Absolutely.
Well, let's talk about inspiration and being inspired. So after reading your book, I'm definitely inspired to stay the course and follow my dreams. And I hope it inspires young people, both male and female, to greater heights. Like, what advice would you bestow onto anybody starting a career that, A, is mostly male dominated, and B, is just, something that's a dream of theirs that they want to pursue?
You've got to be prepared to hang in there. You've got to be prepared to hang in there. Don't take no for an answer, and learn as much as you can and fit in, because the more you fit into a group situation, the longer you're going to last in that group. If you're always standing out on the side thinking, in my case, I'm a female, I'm over here and all the boys are over there, it's not going to work. It's not going to work at all. So, I took it probably to the extreme at times, but those were the times where, drinking and swearing and, whatever else,
Sure.
doing drugs, whatever was going on. It was like, well, I'm going to do it just as much, if not better. But the work ethic was the same. I'm going to do it just as hard, if not better. So between the work ethic and the recreation time, I was pretty hard to match, you know. So, you know, make
Sure.
yourself stand out, you know. But, you know, there's another thing as well, though, you know, when you're having these dreams and, you know, aspirations, you might not actually fit in the niche that you're looking for. You know, there
Right.
might be a niche just off to the left a little bit. So don't give up, you know, try something else. You know, if you find that that's not working for you, have a look around and see what else you could do while you're there, you know, and that's what I suggest.
Right.
And that's, you know, something that I did. I kept changing careers, you know, because again, it was like I felt if I was a moving target, you know, I keep moving, you know, and I keep the momentum going, you know, and I wouldn't stop
Sure.
between tours. I'd keep going because being the only girl out there, I thought if I stopped, they won't let me back in. So I just kept
gotcha.
going, you know,
Right.
and it was you know, it was a worthy fear back then, you know, because there weren't any others, you know, and then gradually, you know, I'd see a girl doing a follow spot, you know, or I'd see a girl in a production office because it was her husband was the production manager or her boyfriend was a tour manager, or, you know, which is fine. If that's what it takes to get in the door, get in the door. If you're going to be good at the job, I don't care.
Sure.
You know, as long as you're good at the job, you know.
Exactly.
But yeah, don't give up, you know. So if you're doing something and it's just not working for you and you feel you're up against a wall, then look around and there'll be something else, because you'll end up in the right place if you stick with it. And,
Right,
and
of course.
whether you know it's the right place or not, it'll eventually become clear. So, you know, just
That's
give it
fabulous.
your all. Yeah,
Right.
give it your all.
Well, thank you. I've been doing that since I was a little kid myself. So, you know,
You have to. You know,
Yeah.
you have to. Because there's always someone, whether you're a male or a female, or it doesn't matter, you know, that will
Right.
take your place in the drop of a hat. And
Absolutely.
they won't necessarily do it above board, you know. So,
No.
you know, so just you've got to prove your self-worth, you know.
Exactly. Well, the book sounds a lot like, you know, right place, right time, and almost who you know, right? So, how did this play into getting your next gig as one was ending?
You know, it's funny, people say that, and I don't remember it that way at all, as right place, right time. I just remember it as constantly working, constantly looking for my next gig. And I think
Right.
because I was just so present all the time, you know, and then maybe from that, I got to know so many people because I worked so many different tours
Right.
and different companies and just didn't stop. And, you know, and I was always prepared to cross over and do something else if someone needed help and stuff. So, you know, I don't think it was right place, right time, because I was the only one there. So it obviously wasn't the
Okay.
right time. It obviously wasn't the right time, or there'd be a bunch of us there, you know. But
Right.
but you know, and I just wouldn't take no. So it was like, no, you know, you can't do that. You know, it's like, well, yeah, I can. You know,
Okay. I
watch.
like it. Yeah, I like that tenacity. I like that.
Yeah.
Tenacity is where it's at. I've had a few of those things in my life and my career as well, where you just, you know, it seemed like right place, right time, but if you weren't in the right headspace, then
exactly.
that it didn't become the right space, right time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because I didn't actually strategize a career at all. I just kept moving,
Okay.
you know, and it's like, you know, for example, there's a really well-known tour manager here in the States who's passed now. His name was Patrick Stansfield, and he was
All
one
right.
of Bill Graham's top guys, and he did everything from Neil Diamond to two different popes to Barbra Streisand to the Rolling Stones to whoever. You know, he was the man. And
Right.
when I did Neil Diamond with him, he gave me the nickname of Tenacious T.
Excellent.
Before rappers, I was Tenacious T. Before there was a Tenacious D, you know.
Excellent.
So
I love it.
I always think that was funny, you know.
I like the nicknames, and I'm sure you
Yeah.
had a lot of nicknames on the road because that's what people do, right? You know, to pass the time.
That is,
And,
yeah.
you know, it's humor, and humor has to get in there, and you know, just to lighten up the load because it's stressful out there, and not many people realize, you know, how stressful being on the road day in and day out is, and you know how stressful setting up a show is, and how stressful it is tearing it down and getting the heck out of there and getting to the next one is. You know, that not many people realize that at all. So, what was your favorite thing about being a roadie, or should we call you a technician?
I address that as well. I think it's a shame that roadie's got a stigma to it now, because that's what we all were in the beginning, So
Sure.
I think it's a bit of a shame that now nobody wants to be called a roadie. They all want to be a technician. But, either whatever it is. I mean, you know the job you're doing. Does it need a title? I guess it does now. But anyway, the thing I liked the best about it was traveling, going to different countries and being a part of this group energy, this little bubble that we just run around, and it was just us against the world. You know what I mean? We turn up in a town and it's us, whether we're in a club, or whether we're at the show or at the hotel, it didn't matter. It's always us, and them, and people come and go in the little group, like your promoter will come for a couple of days and then you've got a different promoter, or there'll be some, local rep guy or record label company or whatever. And you tend to just, you tend to use them and get them to buy all free food and stuff. You get them to buy drinks and stuff. It's like, oh, good, the record company guy's here. Quick, let's order doubles.
Exactly.
Because we know they're not going to be there in a couple of days, and someone else is paying for it anyway. So, whereas we need to keep whatever hard-earned money we're making, because it wasn't always a lot,
Oh, exactly. And, the per diems, I'm sure, were just not really enough to get by on.
Yeah, they're kind of better than they, I mean, per diems go up and down over the decades, some decades it's like abysmal and others it's okay. And, it's all of that stuff's negotiating. You've got to negotiate your way in these things, and you really don't want to share your information with other members of the crew, because that can cause a severe problem. Someone finds out you're making 400 quid a week more than they are, they're not going to work as hard. It's like, whoa, hang on, that's not my fault, that's your fault.
Amen.
You didn't negotiate a wage, so now you don't think you have to work because I've negotiated my wage. No.
Yeah,
So
that's not how that works.
No. So money's you never talk money on the road. It's not a good thing. Plus, you get depressed if you start talking money with the band members.
Oh God, yeah.
Because they've got a lot of it, and we've got none. Although some of them are funny as well. I mean, there was one band that I won't name that the drummer, he thought that if he signed it to his hotel room, he didn't have to pay for it. So he'd always be buying rounds and stuff like that. And I said to him, I pulled him aside. I said, no, listen, at first we thought it was funny, but then it was like, this guy's going to have nothing left when he gets home, and it's like, so I pulled him aside and he's like, no. And he was adamant. No, I don't have to pay for it. I just sign it and leave. So, I mean, the mind boggles, so just don't talk money with people while you're out there. That's a big suggestion.
Right. Gotcha. Well, it's probably a good one in life in general.
Yeah,
because
true.
People are very protective over all that.
Yeah.
So what was your least favorite thing about being a road technician?
There was never any toilets for girls. There was never any showers. There was, in the beginning, there was no amenities whatsoever. There was no security. There was no toilets. There was no showers. There was very rarely catering or anything like that, and what you got was what you got, and it's like, people would throw this mystery food at you and it's like, oh God, I'd rather, because I started off as a vegetarian, you know what I mean?
Sure.
So I was a vegetarian all through AC/DC and through all the Australian tours, international tours. And then when I got to the UK, because it was like 70s, 80s, the diet in the UK at the time was abysmal anyway. The food was terrible anyway. So when you threw vegetarian at them, their minds exploded. It was like, it must mean eggs or fish. As long as it doesn't, bleed red blood, it's vegetarian.
Gotcha.
It's like,
okay.
No, that's not how it works.
So is that a shock? Like when you left Australia and you started traveling to different places and different continents in Europe and the States finally, like, the food thing is one thing. I've been all over the world a few times and, I go hungry in some places, right? Because the food is just not very good as compared to what I'm used to. That's all there is to it, right? So when you first started to travel through the job, was it really hard to get used to all that?
It was tough, but that I gave up on the vegetarian thing quite early into the European, part of my
Okay.
life, because it just wasn't happening, but, and various other things as well, when you don't speak the language, like in
Right.
Holland, and Germany, and well, probably all through Europe now, they have this, the yogurt milk,
Oh,
and
yeah. Okay.
I swear milk saves my life. I can have the worst hangover in the world, and if I down a pint of milk, I'm good. And it's like, I remember going into this little corner store in Amsterdam, ran in there, grabbed the milk, paying the woman, and she's talking to someone in Dutch, and I've got no idea what she's talking about. She's looking at me, pull the lid off, down this, and then I realised it's like, I thought it was rotten milk, but it was that yogurt milk. And of course I throw that up all over a store and like apologise profusely and run. So there can be things with food, and also horse meat. The French eat horse meat.
Yes, they do.
And that just mortified me, the fact, because I love horses, and the fact that they were eating horses, it was like, and so I learned very quickly that if it doesn't say bœuf, don't touch it.
Exactly.
Don't touch it. It's
Amen, girl.
And if you don't, fast food, I mean, I've never been a fast food person anyway, burgers and shit like that, I just don't do it. But, it's like, oh, hell no, that is a horse. There's no way that's beef. It's like, no.
Right.
No. Yeah.
Right.
So,
We'll
but
have none of that.
yeah, but on the other hand, there's some wonderful food there as well, so.
Sure. Sure.
Yeah. So, you just roll with it, wherever you are. I mean, I'm quite a chameleon, wherever I am, I kind of adapt,
Right. You and me
think
both.
And I think that comes from my very, very early times of being dragged around. It was like, whatever it was, adapt to it, and that's how you'll survive.
Yeah,
so I
absolutely.
have strong survival tactics.
Right. So you started out doing a little bit of sound and some lights, right? And why'd you jump off the sound train, so to speak?
Well, I never meant to jump on the sound train. I was doing backline. I was doing backline quite happily with AC/DC, and the band I worked with before then. And I liked doing backline. I love drums, so, I could tune the drums and tune the guitars and restring them and all that sort of stuff. So I was quite happy doing backline until one day AC/DC goes, we need a PA because, the ones in these clubs that we're playing aren't strong enough for Bond's voice, so go and go to this place and pick one up, Tana. And I said, well, okay. And they go, don't worry, there'll be one ready. You just got to pick it up. I was like, oh, okay, I can do that. So I drive out there. And then all of a sudden it's like, who's the band? There's nothing was ready, of course, and it's like, well, it's AC/DC and really loud guitars and Bonds. And then one of the guys knew Bond from a previous band that Bond had been in. He'd actually been a guitar player in that band. So that helped a bit. So, they put this system together, throw it in the truck, and I get it back to the house because we all live together in the house, So I get it back to the house and they're like, don't unpack it. We've got this show we're going to go to now. We want to test out this PA straight away, and it's like, oh, okay. And by the way, you're doing the sound, Tana. It's like, what? it's like, no, you don't understand. No, excuse me. A little hand goes up. No. And they go, no, you'll be fine. I said, what do you mean I'll be fine? It's like, Jesus. And I set this thing up. I mean, there wasn't even a sound check person. There wasn't a sound check. No sound check. Set up the PA, front of house, and monitors from front of house. It's like, are you kidding me? No, this is not good.
Exactly.
But their logic was that I knew them and I knew what they wanted and I knew the sound. And I knew the sound. I guess they thought the rest just came naturally. I don't know what they thought with the actually making it happen bit. I don't know what the logic was with that. But you know what? They threw me in the deep end and it was a pretty basic system. So, there wasn't that much I could do with it anyway. You know what I mean? Right. So, and they were happy with it, So I did that until the end of my second year with them. And that's when they went in the studio to do their second album. And that's when I realized that I either needed to learn a lot about sound in a really short amount of time, because when they came out of the studio with the second album, we were going to the next level up in venues. So we were going from, we'd been doing 2000s, anything from like 600 to 2000. We started off with about 20, but, we worked our way up as bands do,
Right.
But the next one it was going to be like large shows with multiple support bands, and, it'd be our shows, so that meant, a whole complete system from a production company. And I'd never worked for the production company. I didn't know their systems. And,
Right.
What are they going to do? They're going to set it up for me and balance everything for me, and I just stand there like an idiot? You know what I mean?
Right, exactly.
So I thought, you know what? I really want to keep doing this job. I really, really like this job. So I figured it would be a good time to go and learn something. Because, we were doing 12, 14 shows a week. So it's not as though I could even get someone out from the place and say, look, you need to run me through this, or we need to change this out to get more for Bond's vocals. I knew what we needed,
Right.
but I didn't know what equipment was back there to ask for. You know what I mean? So
Sure.
It was kind of, I did upgrade the PA once, and that worked, that was, thank God, but, I needed the experience. I needed the knowledge. I needed to learn, and I needed someone to be able to show me. And there was no one, because I was doing monitors and front of house. There wasn't even another sound guy. The rest of the crew just helped me set up the PA,
Right.
So that's when I decided that, if I'm going to keep doing this as a job, as a living, a career, that I needed to go somewhere where I could learn something, where someone could teach me, and that's how I ended up with ACT. But the job opening they had was lighting. So I thought, well, I can either not take the job and have all these, because a bunch of local bands were saying, come and do our sound like you do AC/DC's, which was horrific for me. It was like, why would I want to do that? I'm trying to learn. You know what I mean? It's like,
Right.
I'm not going to grow if I do that. If I'd done that, I'd probably still be sitting in a pub somewhere doing some cover band sound, with a four-way system. You know what I mean? In Australia.
Little lollipops and stuff.
Yeah, so the option was lighting, and it was like, and I hadn't really liked lighting when a guy turned up for AC/DC and started doing lights. He was a pain in the ass, and we had problems with the power and problems with the sound, and so it was like, oh, do I really want to do this? But I looked around at the crew that was there, and I said, you know what? These are the best in the country. I want to learn from these guys. So
Excellent.
That's what I did.
Right.
And that's always been my goal over, staying with a band necessarily, just so I can say I'm with that band. I'll always go to something else where I can learn and continue on, So that's kind of my mentality through it, It's kind of sad, it was sad to leave AC/DC, and later, English band Status Quo, I was with them 4 years,
Right.
But, when I left, again, they were taking a year off for tax purposes. So
Right.
what was I going to do for that year? Just, hang around and wait? They would have put me on a retainer, and it's like, that's no good. I want to keep learning. So
Right. Exactly.
yeah.
So why did you leave AC/DC when they were already being recognized as a successful band?
Because I needed to learn.
Ah, okay.
That was the whole story. I needed to learn. So they were going to be in the studio for a month, and then Christmas, and then boom, January start, and probably go. And then the idea was then to go to England eventually, probably by mid-year.
Okay.
And then I would have been like, if they'd taken me to England with them, then it would have been all new equipment again, and I wouldn't have known what the hell I was doing. You know what I mean? So it was like, no, I need to go somewhere where I can learn,
I got you. And some of those lighting rigs that you described in the book were crazy, like the 3,000 light thing. Oh my God, that was just the plot of that thing, or the picture of it looks crazy. And
that's like a quarter of the rig that's in that plot. Yeah. I just didn't want to take up like a whole 2 pages of the book just for one lighting rig.
One picture, right?
Yeah, it was like I showed the dimmers and the lamps on the floor and the trussing and stuff, so you got a good idea of what was going on there,
Right.
And it was an amazing time to do lighting, because lighting was just taking off. It was exploding, and it was like,
sure,
it was probably it was definitely as important, if not more important in some cases than sound was, for some bands. I mean, some bands, so they so relied on visual effects, and some of them just really didn't. I mean, obviously they wanted to be able to hear themselves and be loud and all that sort of stuff, but the finer points was spent on the visuals,
Right.
So
exactly.
it was an exciting time to do lighting, actually, and I'm really glad that I made that decision. So yes, I left AC/DC, but I got to learn so much and travel all over the world, and who knows? You never know how long you're going to be with a band anyway. You don't know what's going to come up. And plus it gets a little much at times. I found that I really liked working for a production company because I could change bands, I could pick tours. It's like, I want to do this tour, you go out on the tour and it sucks. It's like, thank God I don't have to do the next one and jump onto another one. You know what I mean? So, that suited me better, Plus, again, I was still really the only girl out there for, about 8-10 years. Right. And it can get a little tricky sometimes with different band members. You like, if you're in I would always stay well away from the dressing rooms. I would try to never, ever go into the dressing rooms. You'd have to literally drag me into the dressing room, and it would have to be a serious meeting for me to go in there. You know what I mean? I'd talk to him in a hallway. I'd talk to him in the bar. I'd talk to him, all over the place. But I wouldn't hang in a dressing room. You know what I mean? Right. It's like, I feel awkward with that sort of stuff. And I was always really sensitive to being misconstrued as to why I was there. Why is she here? Is she here just to pull a musician, or and it's like, no, there's got to be an easier way to do that.
Right.
Without loading 10 trucks.
Exactly. And people and their assumptions are crazy anyway.
And looking like hell once you've done it. It's like, oh yeah, I'm out to slay someone. Yeah, look at me. I'm covered in grease and oil. I'm all sweaty. And you want me to go to the after show party? Well, I'm going just like this. Yeah, look at who am I trying to kid?
Right, exactly.
So, but I was really sensitive to it. And the other thing that's kind of weird is back then, wives and girlfriends as well would start befriending you. And it's And it's like, why are they befriending me? It's like, I've really got nothing in common with these people. The girlfriends of the band, the band member wants to show you what he got him for Christmas. It's a new pair of boobs. It's like, no, I don't want to see them. Thanks anyway, but no, thank you. But they get all friendly, these girlfriends and wives and stuff. And it's like, they just want to know what their husbands and boyfriends are doing out on the road. And
they're curious.
Yeah, and curious. They want to grill you, and it's like, that's not my job.
Right.
You want to know, you ask them. That's none of my business.
Exactly.
So yeah, it's always, there was always some weird thing about being a girl out there. Now hopefully it's changed a little bit. I know a bunch of girls that are doing it now, and it's changed. It's changed a bit. It's more open to girls being married and families and kids even,
Sure.
So, so that's changed a lot, which is great, and girls have great positions, whether they're tour managers or front of house sound or monitors or, lighting designers, whatever, So, it has come a long way, which I'm really happy to see. I think that's great, But
absolutely. I'm glad to see it too, because there's a lot of talent, male or female, it doesn't matter. And that's what we need out there is the talent,
Exactly. And it also puts a different dynamic on it as well. It actually makes it more like the real world,
Exactly.
as opposed to a pack of guys roaming around the terrain, you know what I mean? Just a pack of wolves.
And that's exactly what it was for a lot of time, right? Just a big pack of wolves devour anything in their path.
Yeah, and that's what they loved about it, and I'd found that was a barrier I had to get through. I had to make them aware that I wasn't there to rain on their parade. What they did was nothing to do with me. Just don't drag me into it. You know what I mean? And
exactly.
let's get the show on. We want to go out and drink and party or whatever. That's great, but when you get up to whatever it is you're getting up to there, I don't want to know about it.
Exactly.
And I'm not going to judge. It's not my job, but don't flaunt it in my face either,
Right, exactly.
So that was the happy medium,
Well, that's good. But so when did you feel you were finally respected in the business? And was there one thing that you accomplished that made you feel that way?
You know, it's funny again, only by looking back, because I never did look back until the book. But only by looking back, it's like especially, you know, I was down in Australia a few years ago. There was another book that came out which had a chapter that was dedicated to me. So I went down, and all the proceeds were going to this non-profit organisation that looks after road crew and musicians who fell on hard times, you know, whether it's medical or health or mental or whatever the issue. So it's a huge organisation. All the proceeds were going for that. So I flew down to Australia and promoted the book, you know. And it was only from doing that I realised that these people that I'd toured with right at the very beginning were still strong supporters. They're like, my God, Tana, it's so good to see you. I'm so happy this, blah, 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 blah. And it was like, that's really nice. I wouldn't even think these people would remember me. And they're like, well, yeah, we remember you. it's like, oops. but you know, and these are still like highly respected people in the industry today, and the same in England, Europe, here. You know, it's. I was fortunate to have some really good people that I worked with, and I think again it's because I would choose a tour by who the crew was. You know, and or I'd be, you know, because I'd always pick the crew for lighting or, you know, whatever department I was running at the time. I'd pick the crew for that, but I'd pick a tour that had like a great sound crew or tour manager or production manager or whatever, because that to me was really important, you know. So I think that's sort of paid off over the years as well, you know, especially, you know, when I started doing logistics, say all the people I toured with came to my company. And they said, we want to go with you. You know what I mean? And it was like, oh, okay, this is cool. You know, and then other people who had no idea, so many people like in America, for example, have no idea that I actually toured and did that stuff. They just know me as a logistics person, you know?
Right, okay.
And it's like, and they're like, my God, I had no idea. And they said, well, I couldn't figure out how you knew all these people and had all these clients and stuff, you know. And it's like, well, you know, it's old ties, you know, it's bonds that you build over the years, you know.
Exactly.
It's a respect thing, you know.
Absolutely. So getting away from the book a little bit, you started managing some artists after this. So the book ends when? In like 1990, right?
At the millennium. Yeah, 2000, like 98, something like that.
So that's 20 years ago, 21 years ago. So, and, you know, it sounded like it had a good ending to it. I liked it. But at the same time, I was wondering, what have you been up to for the next 20 years? Like, I know you're a manager. And so what made you want to start managing artists?
Well, you know, actually, I didn't want to start managing artists.
Okay.
I just like new talent, you know, and I've always looked for I've always you know, when I was on the road or wherever I was on a tour, I'd always go out and try and find some local band or some new band. And like when I was in the UK, you know, I was working with bands like The Who or, you know, whatever, you know, and I'd always go and see like punk bands and check out whatever else was going on, you know, whether it was ska bands or whatever, you know. So plus again, it was my demographic as well, because everyone I worked with was so much older than me, you know what I mean? So that way I could find, you know, younger bands and stuff. So, you know, so anyway, from a love of new music, you know, that's how I ended up with Per Se Trigger Pip, you know, and it was just like, you know, they were really talented and, you know, they had a great energy about them. They had a great look about them, but it's a risky business. I mean, unless you got money to burn, don't do it.
Right, exactly.
Don't do it. It's not a good idea. But, because you know, the odds are so against you. You know what I mean? The odds are just so against you. You know, and bands, it's easier for a band member to jump ship and join a different band than a manager. Sure. In a contractual agreement with a bunch of people to get out and run. You know what I mean? So you know, it's, you know, I mean, if it goes, it goes, and that's an amazing thing. You know, I mean, that's something to watch. You know, it's a thing of beauty. But
absolutely.
You know, the chances of it happening are so slim. You know, I wouldn't recommend that to anyone. You know, so Yeah, so I did that. I had a non-profit for a while that I
Okay.
ran as well, and that was bringing music back into schools. So and I think I touch on it in the book. That's we did Venice High School, and I got everyone from
Right.
Cameron Crowe to to Black Eyed Peas to all sorts of different people, whether it was Zildjian or Remo or whoever it was. They all got behind it, and that was pretty much the blueprint for Save the Music. So
Right.
you
Exactly.
know, but again, it was me on my own doing it. So
Right.
it's a lot. And I was going to hook up. I had a meeting with the Grammys, to see if we wanted to do something that way, and it was too corporate for me. I'm not a
Right.
corporate girl. I'm really not. I'm just an independent kind of person. So I did that for a bit. Worked in film. Did a bunch of film stuff. Whether it was
Cool.
cable or movies, and again, it's amazing because the amount of stuff that doesn't make it to
Oh,
the screen. It's like I just spent a year of my life on that and it never even made it out of the can. It's like, what
well,
is
there's
going on?
records. Yeah, there's lots of
Yeah.
records and bands like that too, right? There's
Absolutely,
thousands
yeah.
and thousands of them. These days, so I was going to ask you, it's like, how's the business different than it was 20, 30 years ago?
I think it's totally different. Do I like it? No, because again, it's become this huge mega machine, and I'm
Right.
not I'm not a corporate girl, I like grassroots, raw energy stuff, hands-on stuff,
Yeah.
I don't want to be
You and me
I
both.
don't want to be yeah, I don't want to be told by an accountant how to be
Right.
creative, and
Amen.
it's like it doesn't work. It just doesn't work. I respect a budget and I'll always keep to a budget and I'm good at that. I'm good at the business side.
Right.
Um, which surprised me. Don't know where that came from, but I am really good at it. But I'll stand. I'm pig-headed too, so I'll dig my heels in and go no on something. Say no, I'm not giving that up. No,
Right.
you're going to have to find a way to pay for it. And it's because I just don't think. It's like all these shows on television, whether it's The Voice or whether it's whatever American Idol and stuff, they just make me cringe. It's like there's so much talent out there that's been working for ever, and
Right.
and all of a sudden, from one spot on a show, there's a world tour and a record deal. It's just, to me, it's offensive. It's really offensive. It's like, I don't know. I think that, a couple of talented people, I guess, have come out of it. But again, it's not my style of music. So I guess they're talented. People seem to like them. But
Well, there hasn't been that many actually, compared to
no.
how many people have been on television on
Yeah.
those kind of shows.
Right.
There's two or three, and that's about it.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
have
And
actually stayed the course
yeah,
and had a
exactly.
successful musical career. The rest have gone who knows where, right? So I get your point completely, and I'm with you on it. I always look for young talent, and it's amazing when you find some dedicated people, period, young, old, doesn't matter, that want to do what they want to do. And if you can have if I have the wherewithal to help them, I certainly will.
Absolutely.
That's what I love to do.
It's rewarding, it's really rewarding to watch, to watch it develop, watch it grow, but it all takes money, so
It
that's
does.
why it became this huge conglomerate, so I don't know. I think, as far as the touring side of it goes as well, is there's everyone's got a title, everyone's got a department. It's don't touch this, you're not allowed to touch that. Oh, so and so's got to come. We've got to have a 10-person meeting before we can hit that switch. And it drives me insane, really, because it's like, like my first tour of the States, with IATSE, it was like,
Right.
you're finishing something and then they dring, and it's like 10 minutes to one, and it's like clear the stage, hands off, hands back, free, hands in the air. It's like, what am I getting arrested? No, we have to stop work. But
Right.
it's 10 minutes too. Your lunch break is until 1. Oh, we have a 10-minute hand wash period. It's like, are you fucking kidding me? And I'm just trying to plug in this one thing, but I'm not allowed to because they got to go wash their hands for 10 minutes.
Because you got
It's
to go wash your hands. Exactly.
it's like, you're going to kill me. No, it's like, So, I mean, it's not that bad in the rest of the world, thankfully. But, we need the health and safety. I understand all that because, people were getting hurt. People were dying. We had riggers fall out of roofs. We had all sorts of things happen, but it's still happening with the health and safety.
Of course.
It's not as though it's not happening. But, I just think, I think they're a more delicate bunch, I guess. I guess they're not as hardy as they're not made as hardy as they used to be. Is that a way
really
of putting
good way
it?
yeah, that's a really good way to put it. I like the word delicate in there. That's good. And it definitely.
I saw this one thing on social media, and I got a ton of shit for it. I got to tell you, this guy was like, "There's going to be a cyclone in, I don't know, Florida, and I'm on tour. I think I have to tell my tour manager I have to go home. I can't stay here. I've got to be at home." And
oh my God!
It's like I couldn't believe that someone was putting this on social media. The guy's in the middle of a tour. He wants to go off the tour, go home, stay there for the cyclone, I guess. And then come back on the tour after it's all clear. It's like, what on earth logic is there in that? I'm so upset. I'm stressing that my house is going to blow away, and and it's like, well, unless you can personally stop a hurricane, for Christ's sake, what good are you? You've signed on for a job. Do your job. And so that's what I said. And boy, did I get a ration of shit. I can't believe you're so insensitive. It's like, he's upset. And it's like, oh, Jesus Christ, if you're upset, go home and stay home.
Right, exactly.
Don't come back.
I mean, if you have a wife and kids and, pets and things to protect, that's one thing. I get it. Bring them with you. But at the same time, a house can be rebuilt in an instant, comparatively speaking to somebody's life.
Exactly. And it's like, then it's like, where does the line draw? You know what I mean? It's like, well,
right.
Fred got to go home because there might have been a hurricane. Now so-and-so wants to go home because it might be 120 degrees tomorrow. It's like, what does that mean? It's
right,
like,
exactly.
You're scared the cats and dogs are going to die from heat exhaustion or something. It's like, well, now there's a fire in California. What the hell? The whole tour grinds to a halt. Everyone runs home. It's like, I don't get it. It's like, we're not the only job in the world where when you sign on, you have to go the distance. You know what I mean? It's like,
right.
there's paramedics, there's nurses, there's all these sorts of people. They can't
Absolutely.
all just they can't drop everything and run home because, whatever, I mean, you just can't do it. You have to be better organized. You plan ahead. If you think that's going to be a problem while you're gone for the next 6 months, have a plan. But it shouldn't be drop everything and run home until you feel better and then come back and expect to pick up where you left off. It doesn't make any sense. So,
doesn't really work that way, does it?
Yeah. So it's changed a lot, So would I be happy out there in a touring situation? I'd have to find a niche, I'd probably go to production side of it. So I wouldn't have to deal with everything going on the stage. That would probably hurt too much to look at.
Yeah, I don't
it would
blame
be
you.
like, I don't know, I can't quite watch this person any longer. No, put me in the office.
Exactly. You don't want to see the rigger fall into the stage again.
Well, you don't want to see 10 riggers stand around for an hour and a half and talk about points and stuff and then finally go wash their hands before they go up on the roof. It's like, oh, God, just do it.
Right. So what would you tell a new band to give them the best chance of success today?
Just work hard. And you know what, to me, is really, really important is just make sure from day one you're all on the same page. You've got to be on the same page, and you've got to be honest about it. Because if you're lying about it, you already know there's a problem. You know what I mean? If you're going like, I don't really like the direction the band's going in, but I'll say I do. Well, then you're screwed already. You know what I mean? So just be really honest, because it's like a part of your life that you're giving up. So just make sure you're on the same page. I mean, bands like AC/DC, that's what they did. I mean, they would sit around, auditioning for them was a 2-part procedure. You wouldn't even get to plug in the first time or set up your drums or whatever it was, because we were looking for both a drummer and a bass player. And they just talk to you. They'd
Right.
talk to you,
Okay.
and they'd talk about music, and they'd see what music you liked, and through that, it was such a smart thing to do. Then half of those people weren't even invited back. They didn't even get to plug in, which was great for me because I didn't want to listen to all that bad bass playing and bad drumming. So I was happy. But
Exactly.
but you got to go into it 110%, and you've got to be honest with with your bandmates.
Right. Well, I think that's great advice because so many are not. And then, you get those 4 or 5 people in a room and they start playing some music together and one person doesn't like it. And, then they either throw a monkey wrench in it or they whine and complain or whatever. And they're just not happy ever, because they wanted to play something completely different. But
one's
I think that's
just
great
using
advice.
it. Yeah, one's just using it for a upcoming solo career, which is just wasting everyone else's time,
Agreed.
Yeah.
So I got a couple more questions for you. I know this is a funny one, and you'll appreciate it. So can you leave us with a few good crazy tour stories? And you can like ones that weren't in the book, and then you can use with or without names.
Oh God.
Because everybody likes these tour stories.
They do. They do like these tour stories. And, okay, here's one.
Okay.
There was a certain musician, and he decided that he was going to become a wine connoisseur. He was going to be a wine connoisseur. So touring through Europe, and what does he do? He goes to like all these wine auctions and stuff, and he buys this incredible like vintage wine and, covered in dust and in this old wooden box. And, and he does this but then he's getting sick of lugging it around. So he puts it, he puts it in the belly of the bus.
Oh no. Okay.
For the tour. He puts it in the belly of the bus for the tour. And then at the end of the tour, he wants it shipped back to America. But he wants it to go cheap. He doesn't care. He said, just, I'm not going to pay for cases for it and all this sort of stuff. It's just like,
oh no.
It's like you do understand that this wine is now vinegar, right? So I don't even know. I just open it and drink it now at the airport before you get on the plane. Just leave it behind. I mean, he had cases and cases and cases of this shit. And thousands of dollars a bottle. Thousands of dollars a bottle. And it was like tens of thousands of dollars a bottle. Okay. So then I had to go through this whole rigmarole of packing it up to make sure nothing best be damaged. I don't want one broken bottle. Okay, sure. So I get it all back to him, and then something clicks in his head. Because then what I have to do is I have to rent him one of those temperature-controlled storage units. That they use for art and wine and stuff like that. It's like, have you tried any of it yet before you pay for this storage? And he's like, no, this is really special stuff. You don't drink it, you just keep it.
Oh,
good.
Okay.
As long as you're not going to drink it, then pay the bill. If you're going to drink it, you're going to be really let down. So that's kind of an example of like strange things that people do. You know what I mean? It's like
absolutely
after it's already been like totally decimated, this wine, then it's put in high-end precious storage, when it's not worth anything any longer. It's like, oh my God, so it's tough, it's tough. You don't want to be cruel, but there's times where you just scratch your head and you just go, I don't know.
Wake up, dude. Wake up.
I think what's another one? Here we go. So Jane's Addiction. Here we go. Dave Navarro.
Okay.
Dave Navarro looks better in a dress than I do. I hate him. We're in San Francisco, and I've flown up just for the San Francisco show. Got invited up, and I'd done this huge guitar player anniversary, 75th anniversary or something it was, and I'd sort of coordinated that whole thing. And so the limousine company that I'd used for that said, anytime you come to San Francisco, you got a free limo, for life.
Great. Awesome.
I was like, okay, cool. So I thought, well, I'm going to get a limo. Like, they picked me up at the airport when I flew in, and, and they said, well, we'll have a limo waiting to take you down to the show, So I get out, and I'm with the tour manager's wife, and we're old friends from England, so the tour manager, her and I, and he's at the show. I'm bringing her down to the show. She's in this she's from India,
Okay.
half Indian, half Italian. And she's put on the whole Indian outfit, which is really cool for a Jane's Addiction show, you know what I mean?
Sure.
So she's got that on. I've actually cracked and put a dress on. And who jumps in the elevator with us? Dave.
Oh, great.
And we're standing in this fully mirrored elevator, and I'm in the middle, and she's on one side and he's on the other, and we're sort of like, hi, and I'm looking at this mirror and going, that bitch looks better in a dress than I do. Fucking, sorry, swearing. But so we're chatting, and I'm kind of like, oh, I hate him. And we get out at the lobby, and she's got to do something, and it's like, and Dave takes off, and I'm going, come on, we've got a car already, we've got a limo waiting, and just as we get outside, Dave jumps in my limo and drives off. I'm like, what the hell just happened? How are you going to tell a musician when there's a limo outside of a hotel that it's not for him?
Right, exactly. The Uber right next door and the Prius, that one's for you.
I know. So Dave stole, not only did he look better in a dress than me, but he nicked my limo as well. It's, God damn it.
Attaboy, Dave.
I know, go Dave. We had a laugh about it at the show, but I did tell him he wasn't taking it back to the hotel.
There you go.
Unless he came with us.
Right, exactly. You can ride in my limo, but you're not taking it from me.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not letting go again. Yeah. So, silly stuff like that.
I have this other thing I do on My Right Stuff, and it's about people I interview showing us some of their hidden talents. And I was wondering what your hidden talents might be.
Sake.
Left field, I know.
Yeah, I don't have any talents whatsoever.
Well, let's see, you wrote a book, so that's talent. You've been on the road with all these people. You do sound and lights. That's talent. Okay, what else you got? Like one of my guests was an amazing handyman, and you would have never thought that looking at this guy.
Oh, okay.
So it's talent,
Talent. I guess swimming. I'm a swimmer.
Swimming.
I can swim for miles.
Great.
Like I'll go down I swim at the Olympic pool down by the Coliseum. It's an outdoor pool. It's really clean. It's nice, and it's full Olympic size. And for some reason in my head, I did all the math wrong, and so I thought if I swam 100 lengths of this pool, that would be a mile. But it turns out 100 lengths is like 1 2/3 miles or something.
Okay.
So I'm swimming like every day. I'm swimming like almost 2 miles and thinking I'm just swimming possibly 1 mile, so that sort of stuff. So water, I'm good with water. I'm good with horses. So I don't know, horse riding and swimming. That's kind of 2 things that I'm good at, I guess.
That's beautiful. I like it. Thank you very much. It usually throws my guests for a little bit of a thought process there, and I like it.
Yeah, I didn't know if you meant as my thumb bend backwards or...
Well, those are talents too.
Can I make my nose wiggle,
Right. Or one eyebrow up and the other one down.
Yeah.
All that kind of silly stuff is good too.
I know. So, yeah.
That's excellent. Well, thank you.
My
And I was
pleasure.
wondering, so for my last question, what have you been working on lately?
I'm actually working on a second book.
Oh, good.
That's what I'm working on. Yeah, it's different. I can't really talk about what it is.
Okay.
I'm also in negotiations for optioning Loud as well. So
Oh,
we'll
excellent.
see how that goes. Yeah, so that could be exciting. And I do a lot of speaking. Public speaking. Whether it's colleges or that sort of stuff, private
Okay.
events sometimes, colleges, libraries, all that sort of stuff. So, once we can get out of our living rooms properly, then
Right.
I'd like to continue doing that as well, and hopefully by then, the book will be optioned and we can be working on that. And also the rights for the print rights, I believe are coming up beginning of next year for Northern Hemisphere as well. So
Oh,
that
excellent.
should be,
Okay.
yeah. So, I mean, you can buy it online, but actually going into bookstores in America and England at the moment, you can't get it, but you can get it online. But so those sort of things, I'm loving this writing thing. I'm really enjoying it, So, I'm also just completing a course at UCLA, which is a creative writing course. So that's a
Oh, great.
certificate program. So, for a kid who didn't graduate high school, it's kind of cool to be able to do a graduate certificate writing program at UCLA.
Absolutely. That's fabulous. I love
Not
it.
one, not one to ever do anything in the proper order.
Oh, why would you when you can just, jump around like we do, right?
I know. It's like, oh, God help us. So what's next? Who knows,
Okay,
But,
well, it sounds like there's more books on the way. It sounds like there's a certificate on the way to put on the wall behind you.
Absolutely.
And
There's
so no
space
more
for it.
management of bands and things like that.
No.
No, okay, cool.
No, I don't. No, I don't think so. I mean,
You never
I was,
know, right?
I was working on a project, which was a virtual project,
Okay.
thinking it would be a great thing during this time. But, everyone just went the streaming route because it was cheap, and they kept calling streaming virtual, and it was driving me insane. And it was trying to, because I'd actually put together different technologies from film and music and, different, whether it's gaming or whatever. And the virtual was going to actually all be real people, no,
Right.
avatars or anything like that.
Okay.
But, just people just didn't want to spend the money. They were scared to make the investment. And I think it's a real shame, actually, because it was a brilliant program. But, maybe it was before its time. Who knows? But I haven't given up on it. But
Okay.
because it's actually quite amazing. I mean, I've seen the technology work, and it's quite amazing. You can actually have, a virtual headset on and be
Right.
in an audience and look around, and there's real people around you, even though there isn't. And the stage, and you can go onto the stage and, do the different positions and all that sort of stuff throughout a concert. And there's like meeting rooms beforehand. There's all sorts of chat rooms and, different things. So, I mean, the whole program was like really interesting for me,
Yeah, that
so,
sounds really cool.
So, hopefully, but, it's money, whether people want to invest the money or not,
Right. Right.
But, I had promoters don't like it, obviously, because they're not needed.
Right. Exactly. So,
because it can become a worldwide thing. You do a show, and you can even do it with a live show with an audience and still do it for the rest of the world,
that would be so cool.
Yeah, it's very cool, actually. So that was
Especially for
exciting.
Yeah, especially for everyone who's stuck in the house these days, right? So it'd be
Absolutely. Yeah,
quite the endeavor.
Yeah, so that was a good 6 to 9 months of work, and it's
Right.
there, but I had to prioritize other stuff, So it's there.
I-
So hopefully it'll breathe some air into it, breathe some life into it soon.
Well, you never know, right? It's all about just
Yeah.
keep plugging along
That's right.
and kicking butt, right? And taking names
Absolutely.
later.
That's right.
Well, thank you, Tana. I want to thank you very much, and I love reading your book, which is called
Oh, thank
Loud,
you.
and which we can get that on all the digital outlets, or tell me where
Well,
we can get that book.
Yeah. There's an audio version of it. There's
Okay.
which I did. There's which is through Audible. You can get it, and also there's the online version, the e-version, and you can get the print version as well. You just have to order it online, and they'll send it to you. And most of the places don't charge for any shipping, so you
Oh, that's
just order the
fabulous.
book at book's price, and they'll ship it for free. So
Okay.
yeah, it's available everywhere. So
Excellent.
yeah.
Well, again, thank you very much. I really appreciate the stories and learning more about you and what's coming up for you. And it all sounds very, very exciting. And thank you for taking the time to be part of this episode of My Right Stuff.
Oh, I think My Right Stuff's fabulous. So thanks for having me.
You're certainly welcome. And I hope you have a fabulous, fabulous evening.
You too, Toby.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
mate. Bye.
Do you suffer from insomnia or depression or anxiety? Well, my sponsor, TAUMMHOMS, may help you in these areas. Once again, I would like to thank our sponsor, TAUMMHOMS, which is a natural sleep and sound healing portal helping people globally to get to sleep faster and stay asleep longer. You can find this piece of gold at TAUMMHOMS.com. That's www.TAUMMHOMS.com. Well, remember, we now have our very own My Right Stuff store, so please head on over to My Right Stuff and click on the store tab to pick up some hot merch and some snazzy garb for those lovely bodies. And remember that we have a special edition t-shirts. Grab your favorite and let that guest know how much you love them. If you tag us in a picture of you wearing any of our swag, or on Facebook or Instagram, we will mention you in one of our upcoming episodes. Please be sure to subscribe to My Right Stuff on YouTube and your favorite podcast channel so you never miss an episode. I hear it'll also give you 10 years good luck if you ring that bell. Well, this has been another exciting episode of My Right Stuff. Be sure to tune in next week and every week for yet another informative and adventurous episode. I'm your host, Lord Toby Wright, and remember to always listen loud, play hard, and keep reaching for your dreams. Good night.
Thank you for watching My Right Stuff. This episode was brought to you by TAUMMHOMS, a natural sleep and sound healing portal available globally at www.taumms.com. That's www.taummmhoms.com.